Good morning, everybody. We've got a great story to tell today, and we're going to change the conversation about the arts from one of charity to one of industry. The arts are an industry that supports jobs, generates government revenue, and is the cornerstone of tourism, and there's data that underscores that. Arts and Economic Prosperity is a national economic impact study of nonprofit arts and cultural organizations and their audiences. And as Bob said, we studied 341 communities and states and regions across the country. You can see here on this map, we're in all 50 states plus DC. We studied communities as small as 1,500 people all the way up to 4 million. It doesn't matter what kind of community you live in, large, small, urban, rural, suburban. If the arts are happening there and people are attending the arts, there's an economic benefit to that community. We studied in these communities, we surveyed the nonprofit arts organizations, and we surveyed their attendees, their arts audiences, 212,691 arts attendees, in fact, to really get at this whole audience spending and tourism piece, and some fascinating numbers there. We focus only on the nonprofit arts and culture sector. Why just the nonprofit? Because when our governments make an investment in the arts, those dollars are typically going to nonprofit arts and culture organizations. It's an appropriate question to ask. In addition to quality of life, what other ROI benefits are our communities receiving from that? What is the public getting economically from that investment? And that's what we set out to find. We work with a team of economists from Georgia Tech School of Economics who customize input-output analysis models for every single study region in this study. And that's because $50 spent in Washington, D.C. is going to have a different economic impact than $50 spent in Reno or $50 spent in Missoula. It's localized economic data, and it's a very rigorous methodology. It takes 1 million calculations per community to come up with these economic findings. Because of the breadth and the number of communities, we're able to make national estimates of the economic impact of the nonprofit arts industry in the United States. And each of you has a brochure, and these findings that we'll talk about are highlighted in your brochure, and they're also right here on this poster. So what do the numbers tell us? Nationally, the nonprofit arts and culture industry is a $166.3 billion industry. That's billion with a B, folks. And that number is composed of two figures. Spending by the organizations themselves, and that's, you can see here, $63.8 billion, and that leverages an additional $102.5 billion in spending by arts audiences. So a word about that 63 in spending by the organizations. This demonstrates that arts organizations are businesses. This is a myth buster for a lot of people. We all love and value the arts. They improve our quality of life. They create the communities that we want to live and work in. But the fact is, they're businesses. They employ people locally. They purchase goods and services in the community. They're members of the Chamber of Commerce. They're involved in marketing and promoting their cities and regions. Arts organizations are good business citizens. Now, unlike like all businesses, they have a measurable economic impact. We've demonstrated that they're businesses. Any business has a measurable economic impact. Unlike most industries, however, the arts generate significant amounts of event-related spending. Think of the last time you went to a show. You know, maybe you had dinner first and dessert or drinks afterwards. If you got little ones at home, you know, double the cost evening on babysitting. Lots of economic activity related to that arts event. So what's the economic impact of that $166 billion of expenditures? The first thing we look at is jobs. We all care about jobs. 4.6 million jobs supported across this country as a result of just the nonprofit arts industry. Remember, those aren't jobs just at arts organizations, those are jobs community-wide. Arts organizations employ more than musicians and curators and educators. They employ plumbers and architects. They employ accountants and auditors and development people, administrators. So they employ a whole range of industries in our community. And these economic models, they show us how those jobs and that economic activity ripples throughout a city and a region. And so 4.6 million jobs. The arts, not just food for the soul, but putting food on the table for 4.6 million households in this country. What's another thing we look at? Government revenue. You add up all the local, state, and federal government revenue, $27.5 billion. And over here you can see we break that down a little bit. Just federal government alone, $13 billion in federal income tax revenue as a result of all that economic activity by the nonprofit arts and culture industry. And in addition to that, $7.7 billion in state government revenue, $6.9 billion in local government revenue. Collective outlay by governments at all levels, about $5 billion. Small investment, huge returns. That's the nonprofit arts industry. Okay, millions, billions. Let's break this down a little bit, down to a per person unit. We did 212,691 audience intercept surveys where we went to a whole range of arts events across the country, and we asked people, how much did you spend related to this arts event you're attending? The typical attendee, $31.47 per person per event, not including the cost of admission. $31.47 per person. And that's on food, transportation, lodging. In your pamphlet, we highlight that. Now, we find some fabulous kinds of event-related spending. Because people are doing what it takes to get to the arts. There was a farmer from Wisconsin who reported that he spent $60 to pay somebody to milk his cows so he could go to the theater. Isn't that great? Great story. People are spending money to participate in the arts. In addition to how much did you spend related to that arts event, we asked those folks another question. A simple one. What's your zip code? We want to find out, do they live in the county in which the arts event took place? Are they local? Or are they from outside the county, non-local? Nationally, 34% of attendees come from outside the county in which the arts event took place. So that's, better than 1 in 3. Next time you go to an arts event, you sit down and there's somebody on your left and there's somebody on your right, one of those folks came from another county. And do they spend differently? You bet they do. $47.57 per person per event, not including the cost of admission. People travel farther, they spend more on transportation, more on food. That's where we see hotel and lodging expenses. The tourism people, they're going to love these numbers. Why? Because those non-local attendees, 14% of them had a lodging cost. They average $169 per person per event, not including the cost of admission. You get that head in a bed, that's when the cash registers really start ringing. So why are people there? Well, we wanted to inquire about that too. So we asked all those non-local attendees, why are you here? You're here on business, you're here visiting friends and families. 69% said, we came specifically for this arts event. So you can really see the pulling power that the arts have. And then we asked their local counterparts, well, let's say this arts event wasn't taking place. Would you have stayed home, done something else? 41% said, oh, I would have traveled to a different community to attend a similar kind of arts event. Art spending is a discretionary expenditure. We could spend it here or there or not at all. And what this shows is that when we invest in the arts, we're investing in a product that draws people to the community, and those people spend money. Not only that, we're keeping our neighbors and their hard-won discretionary dollars right here in town. That's it. A vibrant arts community is good for local businesses. It's putting cheeks in seats. It's putting derrieres and cafe chairs. It's vitalizing our neighborhoods. And you know what? This is getting a fabulous story, as Bob said. Bob and I and a number of Americans for the Arts staff fanning across the country. Just if you check, the recent most USA Today, there's a beautiful box right there, $31.47. Every community we go in, we're seeing editorials, 9 front-page stories in just the last 4 weeks alone. This is a big story for communities. And speaking of communities, each of you on your seat, in addition to the pamphlet, you have some highlights of the economic impact data from the speakers you're about to see. And these are just very brief highlights. You can go to americansforthearts.org and find all of the economic data, every single data point for this entire study, including the 570-page doorstop version. We've got every number. It's all sound and credible. But you'll find highlighted here as the speakers come up, total expenditures. So in Alexandria, almost $112 million of economic activity. And then you'll see jobs supported, 2,628 jobs, full-time equivalent jobs, just across the river there. $7.5 million in local and state government revenue. Average audience expenditures, they're running ahead of the average there in Alexandria, $32.04. So just some highlights there I want to call out. Last piece here, on the back of your pamphlet, you're actually going to see what's on this poster over here to my left, your right. Those are our national partners in this study. Organizations like the U.S. Conference of Mayors, the National League of Cities, the National Association of Counties. On the business side, you've got the Conference Board or the tourism people. They go to Destinations International. If you're a funder, a foundation, independent sector, Council on Foundation, these organizations are national partners on Arts and Economic Prosperity 5 because they too believe the arts have a fundamental role in building healthy communities, and they buy into the methodology and they buy into the results. Nationally, as well as locally, the arts mean business. Thank you.